Former gamers of Reddit, what was the reason you stopped playing video games altogether, or a lot less frequently? I stopped when I realized the ratio feeling of joy and accomplishment time investment of video game was far inferior to the one of my other hobbies. Working and living in an area with only enough internet power to watch a YouTube video at 144p. Same here. I move back home every summer for college and there is terrible satellite internet there. I do very little gaming except for single player games. Single player games don't have the same addiction level as multiplayer games, I find. Mostly a lack of mental energy. I find it on my day off from work and chores and errands and etc. I don't want to do stuff that engages that much of my brain. I might just have to get into dumber games. I tend to enjoy the resource management puzzle open world type games that make you juggle a lot of info for crafting and which way to proceed. I started drawing and couldn't spend 12 hours a day staring at my laptop anymore. It was too tiring. Work mainly, and I've also gotten old in that I find it hard to get into modern games. They either require too much lead-in time or I don't have the time to dedicate to getting good at. I'd love to have a LAN Age of Empires battle again. Those were the days. For me, there were two things. 1. The communities I was a part of grew increasingly toxic, but gaming alone isn't as fun. 2. I found other hobbies that took more time. I still game, but I'm pickier about what I'll put my money into, and I find I'd rather revisit old games than take a chance on some of the crap coming out. I discovered a love for hiking, and it's considerably better for my mental and physical health, and more of my free hours on weekends goes to that now, but I still typically find a few hours during the week to chill with the like. For people that I'm still pals with online to play games. A baby, I still play a bit when I can. Me too. He's a young toddler now, but I try to keep screen time to a minimum. I can only play when he's asleep, and that's when I have to do things like dishes and laundry. I recently quit CS:GO, over 3,000 hours, for the same reason I've quit other lifestyle games such as Overwatch, Rocket League, Rainbow Six Siege. They consume way too much of my free time. I would come in from work and can spend hours on end playing them without really anything to show for it. If I'd spent that much time doing something more productive like playing guitar, then I'd at least be pretty good at guitar by the end of it. But being good at games is pretty unimpressive to most people and isn't really transferable out of the game. I still intend to play games. Recently started Resident Evil 4, but with single player games there's no pressure to be locked into an ongoing match and I have more control over how much time I spend in it. Also, and in my opinion more importantly, I find these lifestyle kind of games have a negative effect on my mental state, whilst I've never resorted to the casual racism that's rampant in these environments. I have found myself at least partially falling victim to the quick to anger and blame everyone that isn't me mentality. For example, in Overwatch, someone on the team always gets scapegoated for the entire team's failure, usually the DPS. I've found that even out with games I had become more self-centered and had a shorter temper. So for those reasons I quit. I had quit before and came back, but after I came back I fell right back into the old mindset, so I think it's best that I just avoid them altogether. The last time I played a video game was December. The reason was I realized I hated half the games I had, but more so I did a massive tidy out and realized I could do better things with my time. That eventuated into just sleeping way more often. Sleep's important, dude. I run 4 different D&D games, including one written from scratch, so I put all my gaming time into D&D preparation time. If I lived close to my friend I would rather play D&D. Much more fun than video games. Maybe when VR gets better. They ate up way too much of my time. I still love gaming, but I realized that sitting in front of a PC all day every day was making me fat, unhealthy, and miss out on so many of the things I should have been doing, both with responsibilities and also with life in general. I still jump in now and then for an hour or two occasionally, but the free time equals game time way of thinking had to come to an end and my life is better because of it. Very true about the free time equals game time. I felt like when I was younger hanging out equals playing video games, but now that's almost never the case. Lost interest like many because of viral demands and wanting to do more with my time. Also got kinda creeped out by the whole gamer lifestyle that has continued to worsen. But the biggest thing that made me put down the controller was, I felt like my entire life was anger. Listen to the news on the way to work, rage. Do my job, rage. Check social media, rage. News on the way home, somehow worse than the morning, rage. Play competitive video games into the night, rage. Everything was this constant anger cycle, and I had to make some pretty big changes all over my life to be happier. Depression made me uninterested in gaming for a while. I wanted to play, and I'd sit down trying to get into a game, but I just couldn't bring myself to enjoy it. I learned everything you do is a sacrifice to something else. For example, if I played video games for 10 hours on a Sunday, that's get hours I could have used to accomplish or learn something. I like video games and still play them, but I don't want my greatest accomplishment in life 100% in a game. I love playing guitar, learning languages, and reading far more. Competitive online matches only make me stressed and angry. Even a win is more relief than joy. I had to quit any sort of competitive matches entirely. It's never worth it for me. Loses to a 12-year-old in For Honor. Whoa. Thanks. Breaks controller. Hours pass and I finally win. Thank the Lord. Now I can stop playing. I transitioned into making video games instead. This is the best outcome. Got a job and a wife, plus a side business website I try to write for on weekends. Simply no time. I miss gaming. You can get cash and XP from the job, but this wife you speak of doesn't add nothing to you. Check your priorities. Art. I've been avoiding playing games so I can improve my art skills. Once you start making crap, there's just no going back. I used to spend hours a day playing throughout middle high school, college, and right after graduating. I was heavily involved in a Forgotten Realms base mod, totally text-based. I'm talking the kind you had to connect to via Telnet, along with all the standard consoles starting with NES all the way up to the Xbox and PlayStation and their variations. Then I got a job but still had time to play. Then I got a girlfriend and played a little less. Then I got a more serious job and only played during my free time. Then we got married and I played on the weekends. Then we got a dog and a house and moved jobs and she went back to school, etc etc. Basically life changed my priorities. I still game every day, but it's for about 30 minutes in the morning before work. I wake up at 5 just so I can get a little me time in before the day kicks me in the nuts. A couple times a week I might get an hour or so to play more. I stopped playing video games around 2012. 21, because everything just felt the same to me. Everything seemed like some version of Call of Duty, Gears of War, or Batman Arkham Asylum. Rocket League did bring me back though. I don't have the money and depression made me addicted. Escapism is important for someone who rarely would rather be dead. Now I just sleep all the time and get disappointed when I wake up. Realizing that sinking my money and time in digital goods was not a very good idea, moved over to sinking my money on guitars and instruments. Might move to other markets if I get bored. Dang dude, you went to a gear addiction. Might as well just switch to H next. Stopped playing League. Realized I wasn't having fun anymore at all, even when I won. Led to all kinds of pointless arguments with friends and just realized my personality was gradually getting more toxic. Not to mention the hours wasted that I could have spent actually doing something. Dude, it's so hard to peel away from that game. Even when you're not having fun, it's so easy to just keep playing it. It's such a crap game. The community, the developers, and the fact that you can put months into the game and not get any better. Work. When I reached home it's like 9. After eating dinner it's almost 10 already. Dead tired, and only able to play on weekends. Stay up? I wish. When you get older, there's a growing list of crap that you have to do, and not just things that are day-to-day adulting. I hate that word. Tasks, but things that you need to do if you want to advance or improve in life. Sure, I'm still friends with a few people who spend every waking minute they're not at work buried in video games, but I can't be one of them anymore. I'm still guilty of losing myself occasionally when I find a game I really like for a few weeks, month. Witcher 3, I'm looking your direction, but inevitably, I put it down and get back to business. TLDR. At some point, leveling up in real life just became more important than having a LVL70 Nerdmaster character build. Realizing that I was a fat crap with no life. Why spend time grinding a make-believe character when I could be grinding my real life improvements? My daughter being born, she requires a lot of my time, which I am more than happy to give. Totally get this. Congrats. We had our first daughter in October and game time has taken a backseat since then, but it's so worth it just to see her smile when I come home every day. A few things. 1. Competitive games just generally make me angrier. This is a vicious cycle because I don't have all the time in the world anymore dedicated to getting good at video games. Unfortunately, I'm still a fairly competitive person, so it's frustrating to see widening gap. Also, I'm jaded by all the toxicity online. 2. AAA single player games are so sammy these days. Some are genuinely good, and I'll find and play them. But a good chunk are just money grabbing corporate products, not real pieces of art. 3. Conversely, quality indie titles are fun, but often short. They're also really good at their niches, not all of which I enjoy, so I never quite know if I'll like it just because the niche crowd rated it highly. I've been burnt buying a highly rated game only to realize that, though it does what it does well, I don't particularly enjoy what it does. 4. A lot of games just stopped feeling fun even when they're genuine. It's difficult for them to figure out fair difficulty in place of artificial difficulty. I don't really enjoy trial and error. I especially despise luck. But some games that are too easy require so little thought, so they often feel like time killers. Just something to distract myself with. The last time I felt like I truly had fun was when I started Breath of the Wild and it left so much for me to explore and try out. Sadly, the game's mechanics didn't expand much after the start and it was just more of the same thing. I started to rush to finish it. It saddens me to be harder to please. 5. Likewise, I don't feel productive, and I have a stronger urge to be productive these days. At the least, if I feel lazy, I can sit back and watch educational YT videos, and I genuinely enjoy doing that. I constantly ask stuff like, how is this contributing to me becoming a better person? To that effect, I'll still buy the occasional game on sale and perhaps even exclusively do that for a few days with my free time after addressing all other responsibilities. I especially will still play games with friends and go to LAN parties because then it's more about socializing than gaming. I otherwise have to recognize that what I previously had was basically a low-key addiction that I needed to fix in order to be a functional adult. I was overweight and needed to get fit, so I uninstalled all my games and spent my money on a gym pass, and 4 months later I got from 68 kilograms to 52 kilograms. I am 15. Congrats, mate. Not criticizing anyone who likes to play, just my own opinion. After years of playing 48 a week and working a full-time job, I realized that yes, games are fun, but there is no development. There was no change in all that time in my life. I reflected on it all and realized I wasted years and years of my life hiding behind a screen. I quit gaming because it used to consume my life. Every day after work all I would do is play video games. It got to the point that on the weekend, I would spend at least 8 hours playing. When I was unemployed it became way worse. I see video games as a simulation. I was very excited to level up while I was not leveling up in life. So I made the decision to cut out games and focus on the life that is falling apart around me instead of the fake one that gives me no benefit. Minecraft 1.9. I still remember when 1.7 was new and cool. Back in the late 90s, I pretty much became unable to play games anymore because all console stuff was going to analog thumbsticks, and I have a nerve condition which makes my thumbs and fingers tremble, so I couldn't use any of the controllers anymore. PC gaming was way overpriced for me, so I just fell out of it. After 10 years away, about 2006, roughly, I tried to take an interest in serious gaming again and the culture seemed so toxic I just couldn't get involved. Now I'm one of those horrible casuals that plays casual time killers like bricks and balls on my phone and has an old second-hand Wii for the Wii Sports games. I have accidentally become everything gamers hate. I had some similar issues with the transition to 3D since I have no depth perception and my brain considers the world flat. It's worse now since I also have visual crowding issues, so ironically a lot of newer games look too good and my brain can't sort out the information right. You're not alone. Just realizing the time spent on games could be spent elsewhere. Some gaming time here and there is okay as a form of escapism and fun, but there was a moment just hit that asked, what are you doing with your life right now? And since then I've spent a lot less time playing. Bought me a dirt bike, so instead of playing 8 hours straight I go 3 to 5 hours with the bike. Growing up and spending time on new hobbies. As a teen, gaming was the only hobby I had. As working adult, I also now go to 3-4 dance classes a week and practice at home, and I'm an avid jogger. I may do a little bit of gaming in whatever free time I have left, but the types of games I play are a lot more relaxing these days. My most extended playtimes are during long train journeys, approx once a week, for about 2.5 to 3.5 hours. I abandoned all console gaming for WoW. That hooked me good. Played every day for 5 years or so, but once I realized that MMO expansions are just giant monetary moving goalposts, it felt like I'd seen behind the wizard's curtain and any sense of purpose or joy from the grind was gone. I had loved Diablo 2 as a kid, so I jumped onto a game called Path of Exile back in the day before its official release. Played that game and only that game for a long time. I think the RNG gating helps scratch some kind of gambling itch. And I always told myself better video games than casinos, but slowly that got dull as well. I'll log back on and play for a week or so for a new league or something, but in general I think I am just done with it. Which makes me sad, but the awe and wonder of the entire industry is just gone for me. I used to love playing video games. I still enjoy them. But the main catalyst for me happened one day when I was looking at my stats on COD Modern Warfare 2. I loved that game for sure and was getting ranked pretty highly. In my stats it said I had played for something like 1,500 hours over the past 2 years. It's over 2 years, so at a glance it doesn't seem like a ton. But I did the math. It comes out to playing COD for about 2 hours a day. I just starting thinking about it. If I spent 2 hours a day working out, or learning to play an instrument, or reading, or whatever, I would be in great shape. A killer guitar player, much more well-read, etc. I don't think it was a waste of time. I enjoyed it, but I decided that's not what I wanted to do and started to focus my efforts elsewhere. I got into board games and became tired of playing video games by myself. I have plenty of free time, but can't motivate myself to play most video games on a regular basis. Kids, hands down more fulfilling using my playtime with my little one than with a bunch of randos online. I am most looking forward to introducing him to games when he is older so we can play together, but for now it play Monster Trucks Daddy for us. My computer broke, so I'm chilling while I save up for another one. I sorta realized video games are just a way to waste time. That's not entirely bad, and they're fun as frick. But ultimately I realized I could be doing much more active or better hobbies instead, so just stopped. Might go back if I find myself with a bunch more time I don't know what to do with, but for now I'm good. I found other activities, skydiving, sport bikes, mountain biking, that were more fun for me and required a serious time and money commitment to get good at them. Combination of ADHD-induced depression, work and hobbies. For starters, not enough time. Also going into casual public multiplayer games. The online environment is bizarrely toxic and hostile to everyone. It gets boring to deal with. Still have time to pick up a single player game now and then, but that's about it. Gamers of Reddit, what is the stupidest game mechanic you have ever seen? Quick time events that can hinder one's progress in the game, especially if the game has no quick time events and they randomly threw one in. Splinter Cell Blacklist has one at the very end boss fight. It has very strict rules about it. If you mash the button you die, but if you tap the button once you live, yet you won't know this until you die a few times. It's freaking stupid. If your game requires a map, I shouldn't have to press more than one button to see it or hunt around in menus for it. Also, the button that opens the map should also close it. And when the map opens, open it instantly. No fancy animations and crap. In stealth games, getting detected by one alone enemy in a back room and then every single enemy in the entire building knowing exactly where you are and b. having perfect aim. The first Assassin's Creed was terrible about this, and it's the main reason why I didn't like it. If one enemy sees you, you'll suddenly get swarmed by half the enemies on the map. The fights themselves aren't that hard, but it's annoying to waste time fighting 15 enemies just because one of them saw you. It was somewhat fixed in the later games, but some missions still have that problem. The random race minigames that you need to place first in to progress. In games with no hint of racing otherwise. A long, unskippable cutscene before a particularly difficult boss. When you go into that mine in Mass Effect and have to save the chick stuck in that blue wall thing. It's been a long time, I'm sorry, and you fight the Krogan dude at the end. He kept beating my ass and I'd have to watch that freaking elevator cutscene and them all meeting each other every goddamn time. Bane turning mere charge in Batman Arkham Origins. No checkpoints in Saints Row. The first one. A limited time to do certain things that have no business having a timer. No checkpoints on long missions is the worst. The final level of the original Mercenaries game was about 2 hours to beat. There was not a single checkpoint. Oh, and a timer at the end just for giggles. Battles where you have to wipe out every enemy to continue. Then the very next cutscene shows you in the middle of a pitched fight, looking at you Gears of War. Also, battles where you kill a bad guy, then the very next cutscene is you saying he's too strong and the bad guy is murdering your party. When your character is small enough to fit through a gap in a fence floor etc., but the game won't let you. Wields a huge axe, this wooden door is locked. Taking away all your defensive options for a fight because you wanted a cool set piece. Kingdom Hearts did this by making you fly during certain bosses, but you couldn't dodge or block anymore. Would be fine if you flew faster than a paper plane. Dark Cloud, amazing dungeon crawler. Thing is your character got thirsty so you had to pack water or lose health constantly. Otherwise amazing game. I remember renting it as a kid. Got through one floor of one dungeon. My dagger broke and I couldn't figure out how to fix it so I would wail on the enemies for 10 minutes. Eventually I fixed it and killed 2 enemies and it broke again. But they said it would never break. God, I hated that mechanic. Invisible walls in places it looks like you can clearly go to otherwise. Using cards obtained from a slot machine minigame to upgrade your car in Need for Speed Payback. That whole game is garbage lol. Ladder mechanics in every game ever made. Taking damage from a 3-foot fall. The Source engine combines both. Yee, dear lord, climbing up ladders in GMOD and CSGO is terrible. It's fine in other games where you can just press use to go up and down, but they don't have use keys. Every escort mission ever conceived. At no point in 20 plus years and 1000s of hours of gaming have I ever done an escort mission that I didn't hate. Similarly, when you are made to follow an NPC to some alternate location, they either walk slightly faster than your walk speed or slightly slower than your run speed. Battles you have to win, only to be beaten in the cutscene right after. This is in many games and still makes me mad, being targeted by all enemies regardless if I'm in front or 3 miles behind my RE pals, while also being the only one who instantly dies when my HP hits 0. Tripping in Brawl, what the actual frick were they thinking? Tripping in Brawl, what the actual frick were they thinking? The creator had a thing against melee being played competitive so they added it to Sabotage. Brawl, it is a competitive game. I wish I was joking. Tailing missions in GTA IV, there's way too many of them and none of them are fun. Slowly driving behind a particular car without getting too close is just a test of patience. Escort missions where the NPC runs slower than your natural run speed or even worse, walks. The one where you go through a door only to be locked into a cutscene where some butthole bops you on the head and knocks you out, and all the equipment you were saving for a special occasion is gone when you wake up. That's a double whammy of frick you to the player. I hate any contrived this is a level where you lose all your gear and have to beat the level without a crap. I already played that level. It was the first fricking level. I didn't spend 10 levels upgrading the rusty box cutter into the atomic face melter 2000 with T just so you could force me to slap fight bad guys for an hour. The Division went overboard with how they handled endgame activities. Literally just threw a crap ton of enemies that had 100x your health, dealt insta-kill damage, and cranked their aggressiveness up all the way. This promoted glitching and cheating to complete the activities. Then they went super stingy on loot drops, and with the wide range and possibly RNG you often got a single high-end item and it was oftentimes worse than lower tier items. Massive was quicker at patching these bugs than the fixing. The reason for these bugs being so popular and this split the community between the haves and the have-nots when it came to the prestigious endgame gear. Massive really fricked up with the Division and it took them months and months of patches before they even got around to addressing these issues. By then all my friends, a vast majority of the player base, quit playing. Overpowered bosses in fighting games. Frick Shao Kahn. I'm also going to say, bosses that break normal game mechanics. Keeping the manual save points, which are few and far between in the mobile version of Final Fantasy VII. On a home version it's okay, but on a mobile device where you might get a call that results in the game being closed the next time you switch back to it, or just generally put your phone away before you can find a save point, is freaking dumb. They got FFIX right in this regard. Still waiting for FFVIII. I didn't know this would be my favorite answer till I read this. Can confirm, I am currently playing. Sephiroth's Past is the worst on the phone version. No saving. Rubber bending in racing games. If I'm so good I can pull way ahead of my opponents, I should get to enjoy the moment. Also, Super Mario Kart has AI that actively cheat. Crafting. When you can craft something which is not a consumable and which you can also buy, and you need to buy some of the materials because you wouldn't find them. Also weapons that break way too fast with time usage. Do that with attachments to the weapons, so I can customize my weapon. Hey look man, I found this Sword of Ultimate Anal Annihilation plus 1000% DMG plus 95% crit chance plus poison plus lifesteal. It's so awesome I can literally kill the whole planet with 3 blows. Durability 0.000000001%. When you try to pick up some loot, but your inventory is full, and the game doesn't even let you swap out your inventory and the thing you just tried to pick up is gone forever. The obligatory this part is different than the other parts section. The escort mission, the vehicle level, the manning a giant turret minigame, the all of a sudden and only for this section precision jumping is required part, so that maybe went off the rails at the end. And some of these things can be done really well, but usually I'm using a spotlight to kill evil bats in a dune buggy that can for some freaking reason not drive and have a light on at the same freaking time. One thing I hated about XCOM 2 was the low level enemies scaled up HP when you got better weapons. Oh, you got mag weapons that do 3-4 more damage. Well guess what? Now you're fighting heavy advent troopers that have 4 more health. Like it's not hard to kill them at this point and there is still reasons to upgrade your weapons. It's just a huge buzzkill to see the low level bad guys still take 2 shots to kill, even after getting better weapons. Ah yeah, that's why I hate enemy scaling. It gimps your sense of progression. I'm fine with newer, harder enemies showing up, but leave some of the original low level ones around so you can see how far you've come. Tailing missions. No one in real life is as suspicious as those people. OMG, they are the worst, especially when they incorporate some sort of vicinity mechanic. Like I'm following someone in GTA in a car, yet being directly behind him. Like in normal freaking traffic is for some reason suspicious, but me driving 3 miles per hour with a 100-meter gap between us isn't. In Shadow of War, you have to click to pick up items that enemies dropped. That, in and of itself, is not a terrible mechanic. Annoying, but not uncommon. But the fact that they made a level up perk that made it so you just had to walk over items to pick them up, that's just crazy. Abilities shouldn't be annoyance removers. They should make you more badass. Hit flinch, when it's really overdone, really grinds my gears. Used to play a lot of Dirty Bomb but took time to play other games, and after watching some footage on YouTube explaining what hit flinch is, I noticed how bad it was when I returned to Dirty Bomb, and honestly it was a rude awakening. It's one of those favor the shooter mechanics and I despise it. You would have really gotten a kick out of the early Dark Souls 3 discussions. There was a stat called resilience or something that no one could figure out what it did. Some though it reduces hit flinch, others though it gave more iframes after rolling. Then a patch comes out 3 months later and turns it on as a stat. It literally did nothing before that. Unskippable cutscenes. Freaking malaria. Far Cry 2 seems to be one of the most polarizing games in the community. Like how some people like the weapon jams and malaria and some don't. Personally, I love the jamming animations because you can feel the frustration from the guy when he's banging on the gun in the middle of a fight. It really adds to the game emo. I got Destiny 2, and wow, you need to walk a lot until you find one of those bikes. Why not giving the bikes from the very beginning? Go to stretch out that content. Holding a button to turn a wheel or open a door, it adds nothing to the game experience. Really just a waste of time. I'd much rather press a button and be on my way. In the long run it doesn't make any difference. I just think that it's annoying to have to wait a few seconds to do something trivial. My guess is that they were trying to hide the fact that they are loading what is behind that door. That said, they could have just had you press the button and then wait for the wheel to spin and the door to open. Higher difficulty modes just hiking up enemies' health, making them bullet sponges, while lowering yours to the point where someone sneezing at you will kill you. It doesn't make the difficulty more fun, just more frustrating. Elder Scrolls games are always guilty of this, and I always download a mod that makes it so that the higher difficulties lower both enemies' health and mine. My LVL64 character in Borderlands 2 has 95% damage resistance, dies in 3 hits. Quick time events for boss battles. Shadow of Mordor, that final boss battle sucked. Paying more money to play a game you already bought. Not putting autosave into an engrossing game, so you forget to save, and when you die, you're done for. Really crappy item durability in games that it doesn't make sense in. Hiking up enemy HP ridiculously high for no reason when you get to the end game content, therefore making your weapons break way more often. Glares at Witcher 3 angrily. I just installed a mod to get rid of weapon durability in Witcher 3 because I felt it was a mechanic that detracted from the game's experience rather than added to it. The aspects of games where if you miss something at some point you miss it for the rest of the game. I appreciate there being super hidden items, but in no way should I be forced to suffer for missing it at some point. An example of this is in Final Fantasy X with the stupid Albed primers. Monster Hunter series, the egg quests. I hate timed missions or missions where you have to run from something chasing you and have little room for error. I enjoy exploring and taking in the scenery. Nothing is worse when devs create a beautiful atmosphere only to have you run through it as quickly as possible. Grinding. I hate when they artificially extend gameplay by making you do the same task 1,000 times. This is what morps are made of. Having a boss fight with an NPC by your side, but then giving said NPC low health and a charge in, headfirst moveset. It takes away the fun of the battle because it basically forces the player to give up their choice of playstyle just to make sure the dumb boss NPC doesn't die. Looking at you, Sigurd and Luke Chiel. Pokemon Sun and Moon. The opposing Pokemon can call a friend to help them without using up a turn. So they'll finish attacking you and then at the end of their turn, they'll call for backup. Apparently people were complaining in the last game that the battles were too short so they added in this mechanic, but all it does is make the battles artificially longer. So irritating. It makes it harder to catch Pokemon. 2. I remember spending 10 or 20 minutes trying to catch a Bonsly because it kept calling for help, and the game doesn't let you throw a ball when there's more than one enemy Pokemon. Gamers of Reddit, what did a game do to make you quit completely? I saved over my original Resident Evil 4 file that had the Chicago typewriter and infinite launcher. I just couldn't go back. I recently played it again 10 years later but the loss still weighs heavy. I feel you on that. I had all the unlockable weapons when I played it on GamerCube. The hand cannon was my pride and joy. Bought the game again when they ported it to PS3, and it turns out I'm not good enough at the game anymore to unlock the hand cannon, and I didn't feel like pouring dozens of hours into practicing just to get good enough again. The Stanley Parable offers an achievement if you don't play for 5 years. I'm about 3.5 years into it. Imagine when you come back to the game a day early, so that's 4 years and 364 days. I had enjoyed the first Bioshock on Steam and decided to play the second. It told me I needed to make a Microsoft account or something. I said no. The game said okay and let me play anyway. Awesome. Score 1 for me. Then about 2 hours later I went to quit and it said yeah, you can't save unless you make an account. Fine, I'll make an account. You can't make an account unless you quit the game. But I can't save unless I have an account. Tough. Eve is real and internet pixels matter, but I came to the realization that I had no real life. So I quit cold turkey 4 years ago. Though I'm just playing other games now, they don't consume my every waking moment like Eve did. Anytime I get really far in a game and the save corrupts or I forget to save and die and get put back really far, I usually don't play it again for a really long time. My brother kicked over my Super Nintendo by accident while it was on the last boss of Final Fantasy III aka 6, sending the save file into the ether. It was upsetting enough that I brought it up in my best man speech at his wedding 19 years later. Star Wars Galaxies. When they did that stupid giant change to make it more WoW-like or whatever. When I realized I would be perfectly content living in Stardew Valley forever instead of living my real life. Star Fox Adventures. I really liked the storyline and thought it had solid gameplay and puzzles, up until the minigame that concerned pushing against a rotating log to knock a particularly strong dino of the Lightfoot tribe into a pit. It was a button mash style minigame. You had to press the A button as fast as you could. I could never mash fast enough, and even had friends try and fail. After a solid couple of days of failing, I finally gave up and never touched the game again. But not before the scene that played when you failed, in which the chief dino peered into the pit at Fox and his pathetic, was burned into my memory. When I was like 10 years old I used to be obsessed with Final Fantasy XI to the point of addiction. I shared an account with my 16-year-old brother and far surpassed him because of the sheer amount of time I spent playing. One day the game glitches and all of my expensive weapons and armor are totally gone. My character was just naked. I had worked so hard I actually cried. Alas, I ended up working just as hard again and getting everything back in a couple of months. Then the same thing happened again. So I rage quit forever. Recently I was talking to my fiance about how I loved this game and what happened and he said there's no way that's what happened. Your brother totally stole all your stuff and I was like no way he would have done that. So I texted him and asked. He replied yes I'm sorry, I was a bastard. It's still all on my account if you want to go back and play it. I still have yet to go back. I spent 15ish years thinking the game had just glitched. XCOM 2 I had gotten really attached to a soldier I had named after me and then he died and I quit for about 2 months. As a kid I played Sid Meier's Pirates on the Wii and loved it. Then I found out the hard way you can't play it forever. Everything about the character aging went way over my head. I periodically reinstall this game and play around for a few days usually, but I always use a trainer to make my characters age static. Because the aging mechanics and slow countdown to game over just kill the fun for me. I wanna be able to do everything at my own pace. I used to play a board game called Axis and Allies with my brother and some friends. Setup for this game took forever and the game skid last weeks. We were in the middle of a game, about 3 days or so of playing, when it happened. One of us bumped the table. All the pieces went everywhere and that was essentially the end of our big board gaming adventure. I absolutely love board games of all kinds, but the lengthy setup, difficulty finding players, and the storage requirements of having a large game library make it impractical. I played the original RuneScape back in the early 2000s. I stopped playing after I lost my R2H and never rejoined. Time commitments from a fixed schedule. I was in WoW in progression raiding. That requires near perfect attendance, especially because I was a tank, and I simply did not have the ability to meet that anymore with my new life. Probably literally my 20th Skyrim character. I used survival mods, required for you to stay warm, dry, fed, quenched, rested, to increase immersion and stretch out the game to make it feel timeless. When I maxed out enchanting and was able to have 100% free destruction spells and cast OP endgame spells for free, I realized that I had done everything there was to do in Skyrim. I'm at peace with the 2000 hours it gave me, but I doubt I'll ever play again. In Terraria, the constant fear of the corruption spreading terrifies me. Not quit completely, but I almost quit San Andreas because of the airplane missions and another one that's mentioned a lot on Reddit that deals with a train. But all you had to do was follow the dang train. CJ. Oblivion. I somehow wandered into an area that I could not escape from. Fight my way out or hide in. I was too young to find a solution. Also League of Legends. I finally decided spending 4-6 hours a day to improve my rank in a game of horrible people which my friends already quit wasn't worth it. Far Cry 4 was playing in co-op with a friend and we found out we were gated by single player. We couldn't go to new areas unless both of us, separately, completed more SP missions. Couldn't be done in co-op. Killed the game for me. Also, Star Wars Commander. It was an okay mobile game, just kinda mindless, which I enjoyed. However, it got to a point where I couldn't do anything unless I participated in PvP, which I didn't care for at all, so I dropped that game. World of Tanks. The developers, Wargaming.net, decided to farm money by introducing premium vehicles which are flat out better than regular vehicles. Almost every decision they are making is bringing their game down. Last patch they made a ranked battle mode in which the best players earn a special currency with which you can make your tank better. So Wargaming is making the already good players even better, which makes it even more unfair for the more unexperienced players. GG. Freaking Chocobo racing in Final Fantasy X. Tried to get a perfect score for like 10 hours. Got so pissed off I deleted my save. Chocobo racing. I've never shouted at or degraded anyone as much as I did my freaking Chocobo who wouldn't freaking turn properly, and those freaking seagulls that fly into you one after the other. The Last of Us. There was this part where you literally dropped into a darkened basement filled with at least 2 bloaters and I chickened out hard for a year. When I returned my strategy was flawless. Run like heck to the exit and just skip that section. It worked. Obvious answer, but Pokemon Go. The step tracking was broken, so instead of fixing it, they decided to remove tracking altogether, because it wasn't the system they wanted it to be. So the only way to track Pokemon was through online maps. Then they started hunting down those websites and taking them down. That killed the game. Yeah, that's when I quit. I had actually made a workout routine using those online maps. I'd pick one and run pretty fast to the spot to catch something and then pick another, and this had me running and walking for over an hour a day. Then they ruined it by attacking the online site. Game over. Halo 5 got rid of local multiplayer. I played multiplayer for a month or 2 after I'd beaten the campaign and then I never picked up the game again. I'll probably get Halo 6 for the campaign, but if they don't bring back the split screen, I doubt I'll even play the new multiplayer. Kind of getting sick of the franchise as it is. There will be new weapons that you can get from these loot crates. Don't worry, they will be cosmetic only. Playtesting revealed that the melee weapons were faster, and one of the weapons ended up being the most broken combo I've ever seen in an online game. I don't care if COD is doing World War II now, it's too late for me. I know they'll frick it up somehow. When Rust did the big update, everyone was hoping for some hacker protection on the servers, but instead they dumped out a whole different game. This wasn't me but my friend. In the original Dead Rising they had an achievement in Infinity mode where you had to survive for 7 in-game days to get it, which took about 14 hours real time, no saves, non-stop. His Xbox froze when he had less than an hour left, broke his disc in half. I just started playing The Witcher 1 and I got up to a part where you have to get past a schizophrenic grandmother to let you into the house to see Shani. I finally got in somehow and Shani wasn't even home. The grandma kept walking up to me and initiating a conversation with no options while I was looting the place. I think I'm done. At one point there's a dialogue option where you just tell her to drop dead or something, and she literally does. It made the game so much better. I know Sims doesn't make me a gamer, but I was playing for 2 days straight during the summer a couple years back and the game crashed and I lost everything I had done. I haven't played since. Final Fantasy IX. Disc 3 of the game had a bug or something, and every one of them that they made in that batch were all like that. You were in this mine, climbed up a ladder and the game would freeze. I want to say your save was ruined too because I remember getting another copy, playing all the way through to that same spot, and the same thing happening. Said screw this game and didn't try again. Fairly recently, I bought a used PS1 and a box of games that included FFIX and I will be damned if didn't play all the way through and the same thing happened when I hit that ladder. Frick that game. I don't want to beat it. Rune Escape. Approximately 10 years ago, I finally got myself all rune armor, rune scimitar, rune shield, rune two-handed sword, money. I was decked out in my mind, and it took forever. I decided to try my hands in the warzone, or whatever the PvP area was called. Formed a group with these two dudes, went on a killing spree with them for a couple hours and went so far in. Got some great loot but also developed a bond with them. It was time for me to go to bed so I said, alright guys, it was fun, nice playing with you both. They said wait, so you're leaving, to which I replied yes, and right then and there they both turned on me. To my horror, killed me on the spot and stripped me of every last bit of money and newly acquired rune equipment I had. I was devastated. I turned off my computer and never returned to RuneScape since. The frame rate drops in Just Cause 3. I love the Just Cause series but Just Cause 3 had too many technical issues so I quit before I finished the campaign. Minecraft. I was working on a huge redstone contraption, and I mean huge, this thing took me at least 2 months to design and make. And I did it all on glowstone, because that's how all redstone machines were made at the time. And then there was an update that made putting redstone on glowstone impossible. All the redstone on the ground turned into the item. Now, this wouldn't have been so enraging if it weren't for the sheer size of the machine, meaning that every item drop from redstone lagged my computer to all heck. I couldn't open that save without putting my computer into an existential crisis and playing with negative FPS. I haven't worked on redstone since. Witcher 3. There was a side mission where Geralt is trying to withdraw money out of a bank account he had opened in the past. It turns into a seemingly never-ending fetch quest where you need different forms and lots of waiting for not a huge payoff. I work at a bank and it was all too much for me. As someone who works for the government, the representation of bureaucracy at its worst was hilarious to me. I was laughing through that whole quest. Club Penguin. Server shut down. Luckily there's Club Penguin rewritten. In Red Dead Redemption I tried to keep that white horse that you captured at the beginning of the game for as long as I possibly could. After completing about 85% of the game I was riding down a steep and curvy mountain cliff when a wolf or coyote or whatever attacked my horse and it fell off the mountain into its death. After not playing for a few weeks because of this, a friend wanted to play online together. He told me he wanted to show me something in the game. After about 40 minutes of riding up a mountain, he tells me to stop and look at something in the distance. He proceeds to knock me off of the cliff and I fall to my death. I sold the game to GameStop for about $11. Apart from taking away most of my waking hours due to a minor addiction, Dota 2's toxicity level was way too high for me. I have 1k hours and I have no desire to ever step foot in that cesspool again. Shout out to all the pleasant players who made the experience awesome, but it's too bad the toxic players are in far greater abundance. Battlefield 4. I played only in noob rooms, and 99% of the time, just kept getting killed. I managed to get a kill once in a while, but was not getting any better, so I quit. I'm with you on this. I'm decent at most shooters and I DK what it is about that game, but you just walk around and die. Like I swear I can fire on someone full auto, be hitting them, and they'll look up, see me and kill me. Or you just get killed by some random guy who is somehow in the room you just left. My level 98 Amazon got killed in the blood maw by a quill rat after a patch, and there were no options to redistribute my skill or talent point. I was once playing MMOG revolving around building cities and expanding your empire. The game was called Travian. Approximately 20k player were playing the game on a single server. I was playing the game as a robber with a strong alliance having my back. I controlled all of my troop movements from my capital, thus the troops ate way more food than the capital produced. On this server, I was the second or third best robber for an extended period of time, so you can imagine how big my army was. The problems with my vast army came at night. Before going to sleep, I had to adjust all the troop movements so that enough food is available for them to eat. Some troops had to arrive in 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes, or my army would starve to death. Because I had to go to school during this time, I always had to adjust huge troop movements in the morning and before going to sleep. It was way too much work for my teenage mind, so I stopped doing it after several weeks. I asked my alliance members if I can park my troops in their cities. In the end, I attacked a huge defense force of an enemy of my alliance and never entered the game again. The Tomb Raider series where she's a kid on an island. Get to the part where she parachutes off a waterfall and you control her over tops of trees. For 3 hours, kept getting impaled and having to start the sequence over. Rage quit and it's been 2 years now. I'm a huge arachnophobe. I quit Skyrim after seeing how many spiders were in the game. Answer: a lot. Anytime you need to be connected to the internet in order to play single player mode. I'm not sure the exact moment, but as I was getting deeper into the Skyrim main quest I saw the same dungeon for the 50th time and just alt F4'd and never looked back. I had a similar thing. I'd largely ignored the main quest to investigate everything else. Then halfway through a dungeon I suddenly realized I'd been doing almost the exact same stuff for the entire game and quit. It took me about 100 hours to realize it, but then I had the same experience in Fallout 4 and gave up after about 10 hours. Fighting games that have god-awful PC servers, like what the heck? I really want to like MMORPGs. I have sunk countless hours and a ton of money into them just trying to like one. I think the social aspect, making your own character, and having a giant world to explore really appeals to my mind. But the combat always feels janky. I never care about the story, and even though every step of the way I'm told I'm some amazing hero that will save the world, nothing seems to ever change. What moment in video games made you go frick this? When you have to either follow or chase someone. Frick those missions. Oh, you're 15 meters away. That's too close. He'll know you're there, but don't go more than 20 meters away or else you'll lose him. They always walk faster than you can, but slower than a sprint, so you get stuck in a cycle of sprint to catch up, run into their butt, and fall behind again. The moment in Outlast where you open a door within the first 15 or so minutes, and a dead body swings from the ceiling and screams into your headphones. Never have I thrown any controller so hard at my TV. The body doesn't scream. That was you. I should know. I screamed so hard I lost my voice. Charizard is confused. God darn it. Spending 45 minutes running a Payday 2 loud heist solo, only to be downed at the very end by a cloaker and have the unhelpful RE teammates let you bleed out on the floor when they're standing 5 feet from you. As soon as the Xenomorph starts making regular appearances and actively hunting you in Alien Isolation. Great game, but haven't touched it since. I'm just annoyed at, in a station full of idiots screaming and shooting at each other, it's you, the stealthy, extremely careful protagonist that the Xenomorph decides to follow for the entire game. When you can't skip the cool intro when you load the game for the 50th damn time. Every game should have a checkbox in the options for let me skip the intro. The new Crash Bandicoot when you load up the game. Just doing any Bethesda game quest and it just not triggering or working when you are so close to finishing it. That really made me say frick this. That bit at the end of Red Dead. You know, I thought I could kill them all. I got so close. Frick that. I reloaded dozens of times trying to make it work. Tried different headshot combinations. Frick them. There was a particular room in Dead Space 2 that endlessly spawned enemies. I did not realize they were endlessly spawning until I'd tried to clear the room for like 2 hours. Died so many times, used all my ammo, etc. Once I realized I could just run through the room, I was so pissed at myself for wasting that much time. The fact that this part of the game isn't more frequently referenced is a testament to how much of an idiot I am. Everybody else figured it out. Nope. I know exactly what you're talking about and I did the same dang thing. Maybe not for 2 hours, but at least 20-30 minutes. Dead Island. First escort mission. Tried 4 times but the guy just kept running into zombies miles away and died. Last try, I was finally finishing this piece of crap mission. Then he got stuck in a garbage can. I uninstalled right away. Spore. You spend hours going from unicellular life form to build a galactic empire, but your empire only has one freaking ship that you control. Wanna explore the universe? Too bad. As soon as you're 10 stars away from your nearest colony, pirates attack them or they have an ecosystem disaster. The best part of the game, it's the unicellular level. I was just introduced to Stellaris and it feels like what the space stage of Spore could have been. Rather than controlling one single ship, you can raise as many fleets as you can support, and the resources and technology are much more in depth. Having to bust out and defend Natalia in GoldenEye when the bee kept walking in front of the bullets you were firing. The mission she has to type on the computer and you have to protect her was so frustrating. I eventually found a spot to sit in and shoot them as they popped up, but I ended up having to memorize the exact moment they would all show up, otherwise she'd die. So frustrating. Glitch deaths. It's one thing to lose your progress, but when it's not even your fault. Your save file is corrupted. The Lion King. Can't wait to be king. Sega Genesis. Frick that crap. It starts. Frick. Battles with Lu Bu in the early Dynasty Warriors games. He really fricked my 12-year-old reflexes up. Now I know how to kite him around the entire damned map. In Resident Evil 1, when you are going through that hallway you've been through a million times, but out of nowhere this random time a dog busts through a window. And then the remake fricks with you even more. Okay, dogs come through here in the original. I remember. Get ready, get ready, get ready, just breathe. Flash of lightning and the window cracks. Ah, ya frick me. Oh geez. Haha, nothing happened. They totally got me. I can't believe I was scared that. Dogs actually break through window now. Dear Lord, take care me now. FF7 Gold Saucer. When I make it all the way to the final battle and it uses Gone on the first freaking turn. For those who don't know, Gold Saucer is a place in the game with lots of mini games and you can win unique gear that you can't get anywhere else. One of the games is a challenge where you fight 8 progressively harder battles. You only get to use one character, you don't get to heal between fights, and a random status effect is applied to use between fights as well. By the time you reach the final fight you are facing the hardest enemy and you have up to 7 negative effects on you. The way the challenge works is that you can quit after any of the 8 fights, but if you begin the next fight and don't finish it, you earn nothing for the entire round. Well, sometimes the final boss is a ghost ship and he has a move called Gone where he unblockably just removes you from the fight. It's automatically over and there is nothing you can do about it. So you slog through 7 battles only to not even get a turn on the 8th battle and you lose. I once read somewhere online that he rarely uses it in the first X turns, but that is total balls. He uses it on turn 1 against me like half the time. Oh my god, you just reminded me. I went through all the work to get the gold Chocobo. Hours of work. Repetitive as crap. Finally did it. Mated the final 2 and nope. I must have screwed it up somewhere. No idea how to fix it. Rage quit and haven't gone back. Playing Castlevania on NES. Worked so hard to get to Dracula. Eventually was able to beat him with 2 bubbles of health left. I was like, yes frick you. Then the mother turned into his demon form and killed me. I was not aware of this. Said frick it. Never played it again. Also in that game the hallway leading up to death that has like 6 axe knights in it can eat a dong as well. I wanna say there are also a steady stream of Medusa heads at the same time, but it's been some years. When a game turns what should be a quick cutscene into pointless gameplay, like changing the Batmobile's power cell in Arkham Knight. My Morrowind save got corrupted after many hundreds of hours. When I was 11, I played through Morrowind for the first time on Xbox. Since I didn't have a PC or fast internet at the time, I couldn't look up cheats or guides and had to learn a deep RPG from scratch. My parents also didn't trust giving out credit card numbers or anything like that, so I couldn't buy the game online. I had to continually rent the game from video library across town with lawn mowing money, birthday money, etc. For a year, I died just about every time I tried combat, so I was relegated to traveling to each town to scour each house, item, and container just to steal and resell. I eventually became a master thief and had gotten into every area and container known that was part of civilized areas. About the time I started figuring out combat and potions, my parents would call brick and mortar stores and finally found a copy in one of the bigger city's stores and bought it for me. Then I was balls out. This game turned me into the joke of what a gamer is. Famished, pale, reclusive. I was a perfectionist. I went into every cave and container along my way during quests. My friends bought the game and we would share secrets like finding underwater statues that give you legendary swords. I was too stupid to figure out where the Dwemer puzzle box was, so I never advanced in the main quest. The next couple years was spent doing every other faction possible and every side quest. Finally I found the box, and all that was left was main quest and vampire faction. I got about 2/3 of the way towards finishing the main story before it happened. I was under the bro science impression that the more saves you had, the slower the game would load. So periodically I would go through and delete everything but the most recent save. One day I was rolling through with my godlike character and it just so happened to be when I cleaned up my saves. But the power went out during a save on that character. Didn't think anything of it. Booted it back up the next day and I was devastated. My one save was corrupted. I had never put so much money, time, or work into finding a game or playing one. I had finally mastered something that was hard. It might be the biggest gut punch of my young life. I couldn't bring myself to start over. I couldn't bring myself to even look at video games. Then GOTY edition came out. TBF. The puzzle box is hard to find. 11-year-old me was very frustrated looking for it. The third time it prompted me for a microtransaction. My favorite are the iOS games that make it literally impossible to progress past a certain level without buying more arbitrary upgrades, booster packs, retries. Congrats, you convinced me to delete your dumb game to make room for something else that doesn't suck. When I had played several hours on high difficulty into Doom 3 without saving and then a friend accidentally bumped the power button on the extension cord, turning the computer off. I assume that person is now deceased. Not being able to beat Super Mario Bros. As an adult. Not being able to hop over a 2-foot wall in Medal of Honor. Star Wars Battlefront 2 campaign, Coruscant. The first part of the level, you have to capture the command post across the map and fight 4 Jedi with easy RD. Okay, not bad. Head to the library. What are you gonna do at the library? Defend the archives. For 2 minutes, you have to defend Jedi from destroying the bookcases. Jedi can destroy these bookcases in 3 lightsaber swings. The archives are also arranged in a way where Jedi can get behind them and attack them out of your line of sight. And your team's RE is dogshit. BTW. About 30 seconds left. 2 Jedi swoop down to attack and probably kill you, while 2 of their buddies brush up against the bookcases, and you lose. If by some miracle you get out of the library, capture some more command posts, you get to the final objective. Kill 4 Jedi Masters. The developers of the game spent 10,000 hours developing these war machines and gave every other eye the intelligence and situational awareness of pre-Sith Lord Jar Jar. The Jedi use so much energy, it makes a Civ 5 deity enemy look starved. Whether you choose to fight as Anakin or keep your elite rifle, cause you can't get past the library without legendary frenzy and permanently unlocking the elite rifle. Prepared to take a seat, young Skywalker. These guys rush down each command post, spawn camping you and your eye fodder team sets, and can turn their head quicker than that chick from The Exorcist. Sniper rifle, more like saber rifle, haha, right? Cuz deflection. I only beat that level with the Konami code. God, that mission was awful. I eventually beat it by switching to the engineer guy with the shotgun. The Jedi couldn't block all the bullets. Whenever focus blast misses in Pokemon. Stone Edge miss. Several moments of the COD World at War single player campaign on veteran difficulty. This was still in the days of infinitely spawning enemies, so you were effectively pinned down until you landed a lucky grenade throw or ran far enough forward to make enemies stop spawning. Almost resulted in several broken controllers, but I saw that be through to the end, got the 200 gamma score, then never touched the campaign again outside of zombies. Frick that game. They literally would spawn grenades at your feet if you stopped for more than 3 seconds. Like there could be 2 enemies left and suddenly there's grenades at your feet. Pay to win microtransactions. When I utterly suck at a multiplayer game, particularly Rocket League, I keep questioning my intellectual capabilities every dang time I completely miss that ball when it's going 1 mile per hour. On chat, my teammate texted, "What are you doing?" "I don't know, Bill. Just shut up." The scene in The Last of Us where you're in some building with those freaky little fast clicker zombies, and you have to make your way around the entire building in total darkness finding the generators to get the lights working. Then when you activate the generators, they all know exactly where you are and they come running. When you had to kneel at the lake while holding an orb in Simon's Quest, spent hours on that crap. That crap is some straight up NES balls. That was part of the Buy Nintendo Power era, where if you didn't you were fricked. There was probably a dozen or so puzzles and the witness that had me at the end of my wits. I'd shut the game down, do something else for a couple hours, come back and it was usually pretty trivial suddenly. Just needed a break I guess. But when I was struggling on them, those puzzles could really frick with me. When you have press A to participate in the story, press A to serve jumbo, press A to climb rope, press A to help push car to gas station. Space, say Apple. XCOM, 99% chance to hit a shotgun blast from 2 spaces away, miss. I think they should just change the animation in those instances to make the gun jam or the character fumble. It would be more believable. Games that think more stuff to do means more fun. I hate having to run around the map looking for 500 different puzzle pieces. It instantly kills the game for me. 1. Getting to the final boss in Donkey Kong 64. You have to acquire 2 coins to access the final boss. You get these coins by beating 2 Bulls arcade games that take 30 seconds to restart when you frick up. Furthermore, these coins are held ransom by a stupid bird and an old monkey who are Donkey Kong's allies. Sorry, I can't defeat King K. Rool because Cranky Kong locked the door and won't give me his key. 2. Rogue Squadron. There is a level where you are attacked by missiles that spawn outside of the game's render distance so you can barely avoid them or find out where they are coming from. I sold that game. Whenever there is big action coming up in any online game and you get a lag spike. When the game freezes and when it resumes you're dead and in the kill cam you're running in place. In a lot of sports games, looking at you, the show, the designers clearly don't know how to or don't want to put in the effort to make the game difficulty scale properly. So instead, for example, of increasing the difficulty and thus seeing more creative pitch selection location, better pitches, more demanding timing, they instead keep the same basic game but then turn what was once a hit into an out. The frustrating thing is that it leaves me in a situation where the hardest setting isn't challenging, it's arbitrary. Hanging curveball I stay back on and square the frick out of. Home run in beginner through Hall of Fame, pop out and legend. All I want is a setting where the pitcher doesn't either throw like it's his first day on the mound or where every solid hit turns into a flyout. But it's obvious they program it so that the harder the setting, the more hits get arbitrarily animated as outs. The likes from The Legend of Zelda on NES pee me off so much when they eat my shield. Dying is preferable to losing a shield that costs 120 rupees. Every time I lost my shield, I resorted to the gambling game in the northeast corner. The third imprisoned fight in Skyward Sword. The 800th time the game decided to tell me what a rupee was. Final Fantasy VII. I had played a lot of RPGs before I started it and had never really bothered to ever level up my white mage before. So I said FFVI was going to be different and I was going to have a super leveled white mage so that none of my characters would die. Then the game took my ingenious playing strategy and all my effort and stabbed it right through the chest. When you first see the alien run across the doorway in the room ahead of you in Alien Isolation, you can hear it running around in the vents above you up until that point in the game, then it bolts really fast in front of the door ahead of you. Said nope. Frick that and closed the game. That game has a crazy unsettling atmosphere. What's the most fricked up game your friends play? Night Beat. Turn all the lights off in the basement and beat the crap out of each other. We stopped playing at one friend's house when he was being relentlessly beaten and kicked a hole through the wall and the power went out. Everybody froze and we could hear his mom coming for the basement, so we all pretended to be asleep. A bunch of middle schoolers asleep at 2 p.m. on a Saturday. Right. In high school, me and my friends used to play a game we called plate tectonics. Over the course of class, we would slowly, inch by inch, move our desks closer and closer to teacher. When she finally realized what happened, we'd blame it on plate tectonics. We would do that and slowly move the desks towards the door. If a person got their desk out in the hall without the teacher noticing, they were saved. My friends and I play the sandwich punch game. Basically, once you start eating anything that can vaguely be considered or called a sandwich or is one thing sandwiched between other things, Oreo, ice cream, submarine, egg McMuffin, you are not allowed to put it down without placing something on top of it. Fail to protect your sandwich and it will be punched into oblivion until you manage to get a fry or something on top of it. I've been so paranoid that my sandwich is going to be smashed that I protected it when I am hours away from any of my friends. It's second nature now. Pavlov's sandwich. Played a game called Fugitive in the Dallas-Fort Worth area with my college roommate. He started it with friends in high school. 1 or 2 people are the fugitive, and the rest are the cops, or hunters, or whatever. The group sticks the fugitive in the trunk of a car, and drive them to some random place in town. Stop, dump the fugitive and drive off. After 5 to 10 minutes of a head start, the group then starts hunting for the fugitive. Only way to subdue them is physically restrain them, tackle to the ground. Game ends when the fugitive are all caught, or make it back to the house, school, bar, or wherever else is the agreed base. Resulted in so many middle of the night marathons through shady ass parts of the city. Good times. Jehovah's Witness tag. If you got tagged, you have to run and knock on a door before you could tag anyone else. In college we played a game called Toast Pocket at parties. It was really simple and no one ever really won, but the object of the game was to make a piece of toast at a party and slip it into someone's pocket. Once the toast was inside the pocket, you would slap the pocket as hard as you could, which destroyed the integrity of the toast and converted it to crumbs. No matter your efforts, you would have toast crumbs in an affected pocket for weeks. Whiskey slaps. The rules are simple. Stand around in a circle. Turn to your friend and say, "Are you ready?" He responds, "Yes." You slap him as hard as you can in the face. He takes a shot of whiskey. He turns to someone else, or back to you, and repeats the formula. As a friend who heard a game occurring from another room described it, I started to get concerned when I heard you guys slapping each other, but I got really concerned when I realized nobody was saying ow. Smack. UUGHHHI licky trow. Get down, Mr. President. In a big group of friends, one person would put their finger to their ear, like a Secret Service agent, and as the rest of the group noticed, they would do the same. When there was one person left without their finger to their ear, everyone would scream, "Get down, Mr. President," and tackle them. On pavement, gravel, whatever. There were some injuries. We would play this at my friends' barbecues in the summer. Even more fun because Secret Servicemen are everywhere in DC. I had a friend that used to like bumping my rear bumper with his car whenever he found me driving around. When I was in the Navy we had a game called Danger Nut. You took a long screwdriver and a nice sized nut and slipped it over the end. Then you took a low pressure air hose, 100 sig, and spun the nut until it whistled, spinning very fast. At this point you covered your eyes, groin, or anything else you were concerned about getting hit, and the holder of the screwdriver yells, 1, 2, 3, danger nut, and flings the nut off the screwdriver. Now pretty much everything in the engineering spaces are metal. The walls, floor, equipment, and that nut will ricochet off of a few things before it spins itself to a stop. Never personally witness a bad injury, but I have a friend with a scar running from his wrist to elbow from a danger nut game. When I was first reading this I thought you meant an edible nut. That game sounds so fricked up, but pretty fun. I grew up in a special place with many rednecks and few brain cells. There was a game called Stick which was rather stupid and bloody. There was also one called Circle which is a drinking game but not the one with cards. Hands down though, the worst was Nail. Here were the rules. You get a pair of pliers, a blowtorch, a large iron steel nail, and a lot of whiskey. 1. Player 1 grabs the nail with the pliers and then eats it until it is red hot with the blowtorch. 2. Player 2 then has take a swig of whiskey or player 1 gets to burn him with the red hot nail. 3. After making his decision and experiencing the consequences, player 2 gets the nail and player 3 must decide. 4. Repeat for all players until out of whiskey. No one ever wins in nail. After a few rounds, people get pretty smashed and start choosing nail instead of drinking. The more you drink, the less you feel, the more you choose nail. I watched 17-year-old high school girls join in this game. There were a lot of people with serious scars and half-dead livers in my hometown. I love how all of your games are just one-word names. In high school my friends and I played hide and go poo. Whenever you left class to drop a deuce, you were required to text the other players either HAGP or the full hide and go poo before sitting down. The other players then must find you sitting down, take a wet paper towel and tag you with it over the stall wall. We had a full rule sheet as to what was considered finished and a point system, which made the game fun to continue throughout the entire year. When I was in junior high school, my friend and I would take turns riding a bike or raise a scooter down the largest hill in our development, and then deliberately crash in the most spectacular way we could manage when a car drove by. Scared a lot of soccer moms. Also, I broke my wrist once doing this, while going uphill. Served me right. In high school, a group of friends and I would do what we called T-boning. If someone had their mouth open with a slack jaw, someone else would bash their fist under their chin and cause their teeth to chatter. We wound up assigning point values to the severity of the T-bone and kept a running tally of everyone's score. You got the most points for causing someone to bite their tongue. When I worked at a deli, my co-workers and I had a game we called Repeat to Frick with customers. When a customer ordered something, you had to repeat their order back to them and intentionally screw it up. Won 3 points based on how different the original order was compared to your repeated line. For example, if the customer asked for 1/2 pound of pasta salad and you repeat 1 pound of potato salad, that would be worth 1 point. If the customer asks for 3/4 pound of coleslaw and 1/2 lb of sliced turkey, and you replied 6 chicken cutlets and a meatball sub, that would earn 3 points. Someone was once awarded 4 points for telling a customer we did not sell pornography when asked to make a sandwich. I think I'm going to start playing Repeat. That's awesome. The worm. We would clear out a large space, typically a living room, and surround it with chairs. It kind of resembled an arena. One person would cover themselves with a blanket, the worm, and thrash around trying to touch the others as they evaded the worm. Once touched, you became the new worm. We broke so much crap. March of the Penguins. Basically the objective is to get someone to say march. The first person then cuts the person who says it off and screams March of the Penguins, and everyone around jumps yelling like they just witnessed the greatest insult in all of history. I can't believe you fell for that, my god, he walked right into it. OHH crap. OHH crap. New players to the game are often left confused as an explanation is never provided, yet they seem to always jump in on the game the next time someone is marched. The game started with one person. It extends to pretty much everyone I see on a regular basis now. My friends and I would get a bunch of bottle rockets, Roman candles, and whatever the frick we could buy. We tore off the stick and twisted a bunch of the wicks together. After doing that to hundreds of bottle rockets, we would set them in a big pile, light it, and then run like heck. Keep in mind we would be shooting Roman candles at each other while bottle rockets are exploding all around us. I don't know if that counts as a game, but it is fun. It's called Don't Catch Fire. Not my friends, but with most of my family that seems pretty fricked up. We have an annual bet that we all place on New Year's Eve. The bet consists of 3 celebrities we each think will die during the new year. We give each celebrity a number of points based on age, habits, and past history that we all agree on. The closer the celebrity is to their birthday when they pass, more points get added on. That is, on birthday 20 points, within a week before 15, within month 10. My mom won last year with Amy Winehouse and Elizabeth Taylor. When I was 13, my best friend and I bought these eye cover things at Bath and Body Works. They were sticky so they didn't come off, so we'd have sleepovers, put them on and just go nuts. We'd tackle each other, run at each other. It was sincerely bizarre. I got a concussion though, so we stopped. First one to die loses. Pro tip, don't play this against competitive people. In high school, my cross-country team used to play a game called nutball. You'd sit on the ground about 25 feet from your opponent with your legs spread out. You'd take turns lobbing a tennis ball with the intention of hitting your opponent in the nuts. No flinching. Cross-country kids are weird. My friends and I would play this game called Assassin. We would all get Sharpies and meet before school to call the rules. They would change from game to game. Then we would go on with our regular school day, knowing that at any moment a fellow classmate could come up behind you in the hallway or in class to slash a Sharpie across your neck. Once you got the mark, you were out, and this would go on until the end of the school day, where the last ones would be declared the winners. That doesn't sound fricked up, but like a lot of fun. The game is called Hammer, and it involves the prerequisite consumption of booze and a hammer. Simple. Drink. Play catch with a hammer. This can also be ported to other objects, such as wrench or mallet. Not too fricked up, but a pretty fun game. Basically, the objective is to get your balls out when a photo is being taken. It's called Sneaky Nuts. Another variation is dong or ball. You get either your dong or ball in your fly, and people have to guess which it is. We used to play butt plug. Basically, you got in an order and took turns throwing a tennis ball at a wall within a certain area. If the ball was thrown outside the area, the ball stopped rolling before you picked it up for your turn, or you fumbled it, you had to sprint and touch the wall before the next person in line could hit the wall. If you didn't make it in time, you had to bend over in front of the wall and the next person got to throw the tennis ball at your ass. I made a kid cry one time. That game was fast paced and awesome. I love that game. We just called it wall ball though. In the army reserves, we played bag tag. Rapid strike to the scrotum, usually delivered by backhand. The game would last all weekend, from Friday night to Sunday afternoon, and it was brutal. It was fiercest when we were in formation, trying to stay at attention while tears of pain and white hot rage streamed down one's face. Yeah, I'm not sad that those days are behind me. My friends' game. When they're at one another's houses, they'll often say goodbye by grinning and saying sneaky poo. This means that they've pooped in a container and hidden it somewhere in the house. My old English teacher told me about how he would take some Pringles out of the can, poop in it, then put the Pringles back, then put it in the room of people he didn't like. Rock, paper, balls. Basically, there are two blindfolded participants and a judge. The blindfolded people will play a game of rock, paper, scissors, and without knowing who is the winner, the judge will hesitate slightly before punching the loser of the match square in the balls. The hesitation is nerve-wracking. This game only comes out at the end of most parties, usually. In high school, we played a game in the boys' locker room. It's a hangout spot, so there would always be people coming and going. The game was, as someone was leaving, they might randomly turn the lights off and everyone in the room would take off their shoes and, in complete darkness, throw them at someone else as hard as possible. There would be those that ducked and covered and those that would charge after others, beating them with their shoes. Eventually, teachers found out and banned the game, but not before one kid broke his nose. After taking out the back 2 rows of seats, we'd load up a minivan with as many kids as we could fit. Then we'd drive down the highway with the front passenger window open. The goal was to take off someone's shoe, then throw it out the window. We did this while driving down the right lane, and whoever lost a shoe had to walk back along the side of the highway and find it. Killed a lot of Saturday nights in high school this way. In college, we played a game called Fireball, in which we soaked a tennis ball in rubbing alcohol, then set it on fire and tossed it around. The object is really just to avoid catching your clothes on fire. When you miss a catch or the fireball goes out, you are responsible for soaking and relighting the ball. Also, you don't want to be the first to catch the fireball after it has just been lit, because the flaming alcohol can splash on your hand, clothes, face and catch you on fire. Finally, this is a drinking game, so you have to use one hand for fireballing and the other to hold your drink. Good times, minor burns. You have been visited by the doggo with Wi-Fi upvote in 3.1459268 seconds to receive a secure connection. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.